Hello, and welcome back to Space or Laces. I'm your host, Jeff Meyer. Today, we're going to start off talking NFL postseason. I'm going to first start with the NFC Championship. It was a game played between the Eagles and the Vikings in Philadelphia. So going into the game, the Eagles were a home dog. They were a 3-point underdog to the Vikings at home, just like they were in the divisional round against the Falcons. And as you guys know, it happened this weekend. The Eagles won. They blew out the Vikings, and they're going back to the Super Bowl. Last time they were in the Super Bowl was with Donovan McNabb when they lost to the Patriots, who they'll be playing this weekend. The Patriots beat the Jaguars in the AFC. The AFC game, the AFC Championship between the New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars was a much better game than the NFC Championship. Eagles, man, they played well. I was a big hater on them all postseason. I didn't think they had a first round bye, being the number one overall seed in the NFC. I thought they were a pretender. I didn't think they were going to make it. Without Carson Wentz at quarterback, they had Nick Foles. I didn't think they had enough. But this game showed a lot to me. Nick Foles is a lot better quarterback than I give him credit over the years. Now, it's one of those things I don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction to this because Nick Foles has played in the NFL now for a couple years. I haven't really been that high on him. But he was given an opportunity, a chance to shine here in the postseason, and he's made the most of it. He's been lights out in the divisional game and the NFC Championship. Played well. He's done enough. Clearly, he won by, I don't even know the final score of the NFC game, but I'm pretty sure they won by 30-some points. I thought the game was going to play out just like I anticipated. The Vikings were going to get up, run the ball, control the tempo with their defense. They got up early. They got up 7-0. But after that, it was all Eagles. They poured it on. I think they ended up being 38-7. So they scored 38 consecutive points to the Vikings 0. Case Keenum showed some of that inexperience. Showed in this game. Excuse me. I'm not sure if Case Keenum's a franchise quarterback. The Vikings are going to have a lot of problems this offseason. They have 3 quarterbacks who they're going to have to decide who. I think all 3 of them, their contracts are up, so they're going to have to make a decision what they're going to do. They're going to franchise tag someone, give someone a long-term deal. But right now you have Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, and Bradford. So in my mind, those are a lot of backup quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater did really well when he started for the Vikings, but that's been a couple years now. He hasn't thrown a football in an NFL game for 2 years, so you can't really expect him to come back and be lights out. I thought Teddy Bridgewater was their franchise quarterback, but he had that freak non-contact injury, and I believe it was practice. That's really put a wrench in his career, thrown a wrench in his career. Case Keenum played well all year. He did enough to get him to the NFC Championship, but not quite enough to make the Super Bowl. But in this game this weekend between the Eagles and the Eagles and Vikings, the Eagles were just too much. They were the better team. They won. Their defense was good. They played tough. Only limiting the Vikings to 7 points. Hats off to the Eagles. But yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens in Minnesota now going forward because they're going to have to decide what their plans are for the future, having those 3 quarterbacks who, I guess Bridgewater was a starter, but him being out 2 years, I don't know if he's a franchise quarterback anymore. And you have Case Keenum and Bradford, who I don't believe are franchise quarterbacks. So they're going to have to make some tough decisions. But I'd like to for the Vikings to keep Case Keenum until Teddy Bridgewater can prove that he's 100% back. So I foresee them keeping Case Keenum and Bridgewater and maybe dealing Bradford somewhere else, which I feel bad. He's really good in college. Had some shining moments in the NFL, but he's just injury prone. That's what hurt him this year. The Vikings was his team this year, and he just got injured and wasn't able to be 100%. So Case Keenum got a shot, and he did very well. To get a team to the NFC Championship for an inexperienced quarterback, younger quarterback, hats off to him. But I think this weekend, or not this weekend, so this weekend's an off weekend, the Pro Bowl's this weekend, and the following weekend's the Super Bowl. But you're going to have the New England Patriots and the Eagles in that game. I think the Patriots are going to win. But before I get to that, I'm going to talk a lot more about that next week, Super Bowl preview. But the Pats and Jags, that game was very surprising to me. I thought the Patriots were going to cover the spread, win by more, win by double digits. So the spread that I saw, it was -9 Patriots. So the Jaguars covered. Patriots ended up beating the Jaguars 24-20. But it was a very eye-opening game. Once again, Tom Brady showed that he's the greatest ever quarterback. For him to rally his team and come back with, it was no Edelman. Gronk got hurt in the game, which I want to talk about that more. But Tom Brady, fearless. Fourth quarter, he had the ball. It's like clockwork. I talked to, when I was watching it, and then I talked afterwards to friends. I didn't hear anyone that didn't think the Patriots were going to win. By having Tom Brady in the position like that to bring his team back, he had the ball. They started gaining all that momentum. You just knew Tom Brady was going to pull it off, and it's unbelievable because the Jaguars had that game. They had the game. They just let their foot off the gas in the second half and played too conservative. It all started right before halftime. I think they had 2 timeouts, a chance to maybe get some more points for half. But they just nailed it. Were content with the lead they had at halftime. And anytime that you're content playing Tom Brady, you're going to lose. You have to keep your foot on the gas. You have to put the nail in the coffin. And the Jaguars didn't do that. They had the team to do it, but they just didn't do it. They didn't run the ball well enough in the second half. They didn't play well enough on defense. Combination of I thought overall Blake Bortles played pretty well. He played much better than he did against the Steelers. I think he played well enough to win that game. It's a total team effort sometimes, and his play just wasn't enough for them to win. They needed more from their team. They needed more from their coaching staff. It's just tough. If you give Tom Brady an inch, he's going to take a mile, and that's what he did at the end of that game. Especially towards the end of the game. I can't remember all the details, a little fuzzy now, but he ended up getting the ball. There was a good punt return. Can't remember how many points they're down, but they were like on the 37-yard line, something like that. You knew he was going to score. He only had 37 yards to go with plenty of time. Just the Patriots do what the Patriots do, and that's win. Tom Brady going now to his 8th Super Bowl. And I said that correctly, his 8th Super Bowl. I remember last year around this time I wrote a piece. We have it on Southbound Sports about, essentially about Tom Brady. Is he the best ever? And, last year I said if he wins this game, he's got the most Super Bowl wins by any quarterback. He's the greatest ever. I was right. He continues to show everyone why he's the greatest ever. Even if he goes and loses this game, which I don't think he will, he'd be 5-3 in Super Bowls with a winning record. If he wins this game, he's 6-2 all time. And I saw something that someone, I can't remember who it was to credit them, but someone on Twitter mentioned who's not the best football player ever, but the best athlete ever. And now people are throwing it, Tom Brady in that conversation with Jordan. Who's the best sports player figure ever? Tom Brady, Michael Jordan. I mean, it's a great debate. I think if Tom Brady wins this Super Bowl, not only is he the greatest quarterback ever, the greatest football player ever, he might be the greatest sport athlete ever. To do it in the NFL at the age 40 at the quarterback position is unbelievable. And he's been doing his entire career. If he pulls this off, it'll be a 6th Super Bowl win, 6-2 in Super Bowls, 8 appearances, all with the same team, the same coach. Obviously, the parts and have changed over the year. Doesn't have the same personnel he's played with the entire time. But one thing that stays constant is Tom Brady at quarterback and Bill Belichick as head coach. And it's a winning combination. But I'm very curious to see how the Super Bowl plays out. I remember last year, and it's one of those things, I've been a huge Tom Brady hater ever since 2001 season, the 2002 AFC Championship, when the Patriots beat the Steelers at Heinz Field. I was a little kid. I was crushed. It was my favorite team. Ever since then, I've had an awful taste in my mouth, kind of jealousy, hatred kind of thing towards Tom Brady because he's, number one, not a Pittsburgh Steeler. And if there's one team that's beat the Steelers consistently over the years, it's been the Patriots. So I had a lot of hate towards that organization, towards him, towards Bill Belichick. But now I'm at a point, I'm older, I'm just looking at the big picture. I'm just enjoying greatness while it lasts. It's special to be, an adult watching one of the best players, best quarterbacks, maybe best sports athlete ever in their prime, winning championships. I'm just like soaking it all in. Maybe going to have one last glimmer of greatness this year, winning a Super Bowl. And from what I've seen, he's coming back next year. So maybe he wins this year, wins another one. I don't know. The sky's the limit for him. Anytime that he puts on the pads, puts on the New England jersey, Bill Belichick's his coach, they're the Super Bowl favorite in the AFC, of making the Super Bowl. So it's really cool now. It's like, I don't really have that hatred anymore. I know last year going in the Super Bowl, I'm like, come on, I'm rooting for the Falcons. Like, it kind of would be cool at this point if Brady pulls it off. Then he has 5 Super Bowl wins. But now I'm all in. I'm like, let's go. Let's just win this. I've never really liked Philadelphia. Never really liked the Eagles. Never been a huge fan. I did like them a little bit when Andy Reid was there. I was always a Don McNabb fan. I thought he got the raw end of the stick a lot of those years in Philly. Thought he played really well. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I think what they lose in 4 or 5 NFC. I think they lost in maybe 4 or 5 NFC championships with 1 Super Bowl to the Patriots. But Nick Foles is the quarterback. Andy Reid's not the head coach anymore. I don't like Philly. Honestly, if Carson Wentz was in this game, maybe I'd have more motivation to root for the Eagles. I'm a huge Carson Wentz fan. But at this point, with all the factors and Carson Wentz being out and Nick Foles at quarterback, I'm rooting for the Patriots. I'm all in. Hope Tom Brady does it, wins his 6th championship, just keeps racking on the accolades and Super Bowl wins. Maybe another Super Bowl MVP. Never know. But it's amazing. It's really cool. I'm just trying to soak it all in because I don't know if the rest of my lifetime I'm going to see a quarterback like this. Some say, generation players, quarterbacks, but Tom Brady might be a generational athlete, kind of like Jordan was, Michael Phelps in swimming. You only have these special certain athletes come through generations, once-in-a-lifetime player, and Tom Brady's it for football. I mean, especially the quarterback position. Obviously, there's other people in different positions that are Hall of Famers I grew up with. Like, just off the top of my head, thinking of receivers and running backs, I grew up watching Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Chad Ochocinco Johnson, whatever you want to call him. He was a great receiver. Hines Ward was my favorite receiver growing up, especially as he played for the Steelers. Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. Obviously, I'm going to forget a lot and leave Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. I'm going to forget a lot of receivers, but those are names you can throw around. Running backs, I grew up loving LT. Priest Holmes was fun to watch. Sean Alexander, Adrian Peterson was my favorite running back growing up. Other than Marshall Faulk, love watching Marshall Faulk when I was younger. Corey Dillon, Fred Taylor, Eddie George, all great running backs. And like I said, I'm obviously forgetting a lot. But if there's one person at the quarterback position that instantly comes to mind, and it'll always be this way for me, it's always Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Both Hall of Famers, best to ever play the position. And here's the crazy thing. Maybe if Peyton Manning was on the Patriots all those years, maybe he would have more Super Bowl wins. Maybe he'd be undefeated in Super Bowls. You don't know. That's the thing that's crazy, too, about Brady. And I talked about it last year and I'm thinking about it. Brady currently is 5-2 right now in Super Bowls. He easily could be 7-0. The 2 losses to the Giants were nail-biter games. Nail-biter. Easily could have won them. But at the flip side, think about the other games he won that were nail-biters. The Seahawks game easily could have been a loss. Last year, down 28-3 at halftime, easily could have been a loss. Right there's 2 games. Their first Super Bowl against the Rams, field goal kick to win. The Panthers was a field goal, and they beat the Panthers was a field goal kick to win. When they beat the Eagles, I'm pretty sure that was a field goal kick to win. Right there's 4 Super Bowls. I'm trying to think of the other one. Can't really think about the top of my head, but they're all. What the point I'm trying to make is they're all close games. They could, like, Tom Brady right now, realistically, maybe could be 1-6 in Super Bowls, or he could be 7-0. But it's not how it played out. So he's currently 5-2. That's how it went. But that's pretty damn good. 5-2 in Super Bowls. if someone makes a Super Bowl, if they play in one Super Bowl, I'm sure their career is made. Unfortunately, you want to win the game. So if you play with one Super Bowl and you lose, obviously that's going to be a heartache. It's going to suck. You're obviously going to replay that in your mind over and over, want to win that game. But for Tom Brady to have an opportunity now to play in his 8th Super Bowl, that's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, very special. I feel like this podcast has now become a Tom Brady dick riding session, which didn't really mean it to be, but I think it needs to be acknowledged. And I'm not sure. It's one of those things, is he a system quarterback? Everyone always talks about it. Him and Belichick, they're always together, always winning. I don't know. If Peyton Manning played under Bill Belichick, maybe he has more Super Bowl wins. Maybe he has none. You don't know. It's hard to speculate when there's a lot of other pieces and a lot of things you got to consider. Tom Brady had a good defense for a lot of years, a really good defense. I remember when the whole Super Bowl, I guess the dynasty started with the Patriots. You had Teddy Bruschi, Ty Law, who's the guy on Sunday Night Football, Harrison. I can't think of his first name. Like, you had a lot of good players in that defense, and I'm obviously forgetting a lot of them. But those are 3 that I remember a lot. I remember Junior Seau was on that D at one point. A lot of great players. And they had a lot of great receivers and different pieces over the year. You had one year that they lost to the Giants. They brought Randy Moss in, and he had the most receiving touchdowns in a single season with Tom Brady. That year they went 16-0 in the regular season. It's just crazy that when you look at the whole big picture with Tom Brady, it's unbelievable. And that's why I want to hats off to him for beating the Jaguars this weekend. Gronk got hurt in the game. Didn't have Edelman. You had Amendola. You had Cooks. But they didn't have a running game. They weren't running the ball that well. And he just figured out enough. He just figured it out to score enough points. It's just hats off to him. But I'm glad I brought up Gronk games. I wanted to bring this up in the podcast today. And I feel like I'm being a hypocrite to what I usually believe in, because I know I hate in college football the targeting rule. I hate it, go high, you sit out the rest of the game. I don't think targeting should be in the college game because they're not professionals. Things happen, the game's fast. For them to have a bad hit and have to sit out the rest of the game. But one thing I would like to see maybe, and I don't know how it would be, I remember I brought this up in my group conversation this weekend. I kind of got a lot of heat for it, but then I had some support too. It wouldn't be bad to have targeting in the NFL for this reason, and I'm going to try to explain my argument as best as possible. But so Gronk takes a hit high from Church. I think it's Barry Church, if I remember correctly. Jaguar safety hits him high. Gronk, as soon as he gets up, he's woozy. You can tell. It's like, oh shit. I was watching the game, as a fan watching the game. I'm like, oh shit. Gronk's got a concussion. I hope he's gonna be able to come back. Hopefully he passes the concussion protocol. And it's so shitty if you're a Patriot fan, which I'm obviously not. Right there, you're devastated. You're like, oh my god, Gronk might not play for the rest of the game. What are we gonna do? Obviously, he's a big part of their offense. He's their number one target. Not having him in a AFC Championship is a big freaking deal for Tom Brady. Even though we know now Brady didn't need him, he did enough to win without him. But still, you have a Gronk on your team, want him to play every play. So the first thing I was thinking, I'm like, man, if I'm a defensive coach or a defensive player, why not go for a headshot? And I might sound like an asshole for saying that, but if you're in a big game like this, an AFC Championship game, and Gronk or someone of his caliber, or receiver, running back is torching you, what do you have to lose? Go high, hit him in the head. Now, obviously, what do you have to lose? You could injure yourself, and obviously you don't want that. You can have concussion issues yourself. But if the heat of the moment, it's a tough situation, go high, hit him. Maybe he has to go concussion protocol, be out a few drives. Maybe he comes back in the game. Maybe he doesn't. In Gronk's case, he wasn't able to come back. He had a concussion, didn't pass the concussion protocol the NFL has set forth. That was a huge momentum swing for the Jaguars. Gronk wasn't able to play the rest of the game. And this is where I want this NFL to have a targeting issue, a targeting call. Because if Gronk is knocked out for the rest of the game, I think Barry Church shouldn't be able to play either. There should be some repercussions. And now I know the one thing my friend said that he was giving me heat for this. He's like, there's plenty of repercussions. You have 15-yard penalties. One big hit like that can change the entire game. Penalties are a huge part of the game. That could be a huge momentum swing. Not only that, could injure themselves. What was the other one he said? I don't know. There was another good point he made. There's plenty of repercussions for going high like that. But the ultimate repercussion would be not being able to play. If you knock someone out of the game for having an illegal hit, that's the whole point here. The NFL has made these hits illegal. They made them a penalty. So if they are a penalty, they need to be enforced, which they are. And the NFL is over policing them. That's the thing I think he was mentioning too. Like the NFL and the referees are over policing these hits. They're very flag happy when you get to the head area. So you don't want to see someone, maybe a Pro Bowl, a Hall of Fame safety corner, go high and get thrown out for the rest of the game, especially a playoff game. But talking about playoff games, I don't think it's fair for Gronk not to be able to play the rest of the game when Barry went high and caused that. The play's illegal. He went high, the play's illegal, hit him high. And I think my one friend made an interesting point, this is what I was trying to get at, like, there's no repercussions. He's not able to play. So 20 years ago, you hate to say it, Gronk would have played the rest of that game. He'd have been out on the bench, drank some water, recomposed himself, and then went back out and played. Do I want that to happen today? No. You have to have player safety. That's first and foremost. You have to consider that. You have to have that a primary objective, player safety. 20 years ago, Gronk's back in that game, making plays, affecting the game. Not really that big of a deal. Today's day and age, he has a concussion. You have to worry about player safety. He's done for the rest of the game. And here's the thing I think is interesting too. Why did Barry Church not be evaluated for a concussion? They went helmet to helmet. Just because you're the one delivering the blow doesn't mean you're also receiving, the same impact on your brain, which could cause a concussion. It goes hand in hand. Maybe that's what I want. Maybe instead of ejecting them for the game, like a targeting situation, or if Gronk's rolled out, he's then rolled out as well. Maybe if there's a hit like that, they're like, all right, you got to come out for a play. You went helmet to helmet with him. We need to evaluate you for a concussion. So then that's the thing. Maybe they're held more accountable in that way. So if you're thinking about going high, it's like, fuck, dude, I hit him. I get a little, weak in my knees or something. I might not be able to play the rest of the game. That's the thing that's got to be considered too, because just because he's the one that delivered the hit doesn't mean he has the same concussion like I can't think right now. Concussion like symptoms or similarities or something like that. So I don't know. I think there needs to be something to be done. I don't know. I know I don't like it in college, so I'm definitely a hypocrite. But they need to have something in the NFL that makes these players more accountable. Oh, another one they said is like they get horrible fines, the penalties, fines. Those are those two big things, fines and penalties. Well, guess what? You're making millions of dollars, and it's an AFC Championship. Why not lose $50,000 for a chance to play in a Super Bowl? Why not? That's not that. If I was a player and I knew if I could hit someone high, maybe this looks bad about me. Maybe I'm a dirty player, but if the worst thing's going to happen is a 15-yard penalty, I might lose $50,000 when I'm making millions of dollars and I have a chance to play in a Super Bowl, I might go high. There's a lot of players out there. They're dirty players. That's the thing too. Like the players that are considered dirty now, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they weren't dirty. They were just playing the game. They're trying to get an edge. That's one thing you gotta think about. They were trying to get an edge, a psychological edge, a mental edge. And I think it was Jerome Bettis was talking on Part of My Take. He mentioned that. He's like, yeah, like Perfect now for the Cincinnati Bengals is painted to be this evil person, dirtiest player in the league, all that stuff. He's like, when I played, that was normal. It's par for the course. We had guys doing that shit all the time. It just wasn't looked at and examined under a microscope. It wasn't deemed dirty, deemed bad play or illegal plays and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's interesting how the game is transformed in that way, where a player like Burfict is now evil, horrible, dirty player. 10, 15 years ago, he was your best player on the team. Everyone loved him. He played hard, tried to get an edge, would talk shit, all this stuff. But now, he's hated for it. 10, 15 years ago, he was celebrated for it. I think it's interesting how those kind of things with social media has changed. It's really weird how social media has affected football in general, society in general. But that's one thing. Anything that happens on a football field now becomes a GIF, a video. You don't miss anything. You see everything. So as a player, like players in the NFL, players in college, I know I talked about it earlier, Baker Mayfield thing. He grabbed his crotch, made an obscene gesture. And 15 years ago, the coaches talked to him the next day and like, hey, don't ever fucking do that again. That's not what Oklahoma's about. You got to represent yourself in this school. That's what happened 10, 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. He was pulled aside. He was told what is expected of him, what not to do, what to do. And usually that corrects itself. Nowadays, you got fucking people on ESPN, sports radio shows, podcasts like this, talking about these things, analyzing every little critical detail of it. And sometimes it's exhausting, especially in college. These dudes are, I guess they're technically adults, 18, 19, 20 years old, but you're not an adult then. I don't even feel like an adult sometimes. So it's really hard, even though they're expected and they're viewed as mature adults and stuff like that. They still have teenage-like tendencies and reactions to things. So it's kind of hard, but I don't know where I went on that tangent or why I went on that tangent, but basically what I get back to is like there's got to be something as far as concussions. The defensive player has to be held accountable too. I don't know if it's stricter penalties, ejections from games, larger fines. We need to escalate this, and that's the thing. But there's a slippery slope though too, because I know these refs are trigger happy to throw that flag on upper body hits. So I don't want to see, because there's a lot of over policing. So I don't want to see that continued where the over policing escalates. But there's got to be something. And I also mentioned to my friend, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised another 5, 10 years from now, there's another bounty gate for a team that comes out where coaches and players are throwing around money like, hey, 15 grand, 20 grand, go high on this dude, see if you can knock him out for the game. Because that'd be a large impact for us. It'd be a hell of a thing if he wasn't able to play the rest of the game. So go high on him. I wouldn't be surprised that comes out 10, 15 years, 5 years, 3 years. I don't know. Somewhere down the line, it's like, man, in the late 2010s, it's weird to say 10s, but late in the 10s, we had these people going high, getting $20K to knock someone out of the game. You saw with the Saints in the early 2000s, they had their bounty gate, kind of knock players out of the game and stuff like that. But the reason why I'm saying like a new bounty gate is like primarily like the whole objective is just to go high to maybe have the NFL concussion protocol step in. But I think defensive players should also go through that. They're affected the same. They have the same head-like symptoms, injuries from those large hits. Even though they're delivering them instead of receiving them, still going to rattle your brain. That's like, if you want to think of a concussion in the basic, simplest way in the world, you hit your head really hard and you rattled your brain, and that's not good for it. I mean, that might be an oversimplification, but I think it's a pretty good one for people who don't know necessarily what concussions are or how they're triggered or how they happen. So I don't know. I would love to see something change so we don't have these big hits and these championships, NFC Championships, Super Bowls that might allow a player not to play for the rest of the game. Now, I heard something, I think it was Pat McAfee said on his show or something, like, or one of his guys at Barstool Heartland, someone along those lines, they don't have concussion protocol in the playoffs. When I first heard that, I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. But then I thought about no, you don't want that. That's a real slippery slope. So all season long for 16 weeks or 17 weeks, 16 games, people take a big hit. We're going to pull them out. No, player safety. And then we get to the playoffs like, oh, fuck it, free for all. You want to play? You have a bone sticking through your arm there. You clearly can't speak. You barely stand up. Yeah, you can play. You don't want that either, but you'd hate that. I know personally, if I was a player and I was in a Super Bowl, I didn't even want to come out of high school football games. If I was good enough to be in a situation where I was in a Super Bowl, an AFC, NFC Championship, dude, you'd have to kill me, drag me, chain me, I don't know, drag me off the field. There's no way I'm coming off the field in any situation. Some dude tells me I have a concussion, I'd be like, dude, fuck you. I'm playing, dude. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that's what you don't want to see that. Like, God forbid, 2 weeks from now, because I'm assuming it's 2 weeks so Gronk will be able to play. I'm assuming, I don't know how bad his concussion was, but usually you have a couple days to a week, you can come back, play for a concussion, as long as it's not like your second or third in a season. So I'm assuming Gronk's going to be able to play in the Super Bowl, but if he's not, oh man, that's tough for a player, tough for an individual. I would be very, very surprised if he doesn't play. I'm hoping Gronk does play. I hope the Patriots win. But it'll be interesting how the concussion protocol plays out, because you saw Gronk get essentially sat out, pulled out of the game in the AFC Championship. Could you imagine a key player for the Eagles gets a concussion protocol and people are bitching, saying, no, it was the NFL, is rigged, the Patriots rigged, they just pulled their best player. God forbid, the social media storm. I don't even know what happened. It'd be chaotic if Nick Foles or Jason Ajayi has a concussive blow and they're like, nope, done for the game, concussion protocol. Twitter, social media lose its mind. But I don't know. I'll talk more about the Super Bowl matchup between the Patriots and Eagles next week. I didn't know what I was going to do today, so I'm going to dive on in, see where I got. But the Jaguars are a very, very good team this year. Hats off to them. Hats off to the Vikings. Anytime you make your respective championship game, it's a pretty damn good season. I think the Steelers, biased here, would have done better against the Patriots in the AFC Championship. That's me. Now, here's the thing. I remember when it happened. It'll make a difference. It'll make a difference. People are like, it doesn't really matter. They'll have to play each other again. Well, guess what? Because the Jesse James catch wasn't a catch and that wasn't a touchdown, the whole playoffs changed in the AFC. Because the Steelers would have been the first seed, the Patriots would have been the second seed. Jaguars would have had to go to New England in a divisional round to play them. And then if the Steelers would have beat the Titans, or obviously there's some things that might have all changed, the whole landscape might have been different. Let's just say hypothetically, the wild card games played out like they did. That means Tennessee would have to come back to Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh spanked their ass early in the year. You'd assume the same thing would happen. Maybe not. Maybe it would have been the Titans and the Patriots in the AFC Championship. I don't know. But it might have been Steelers hosting the Patriots at Heinz Field. Big Ben and that Steelers offense had enough firepower to beat the Patriots. It's just, would the defense have played well enough to beat the Patriots? I don't know. Maybe the Jaguars would have beat Patriots in a divisional round game at Foxborough instead of the AFC Championship. I don't know. But it didn't play out that way. Tom Brady, clearly the greatest of all time. The teams he had to play, he took care of business. He wasn't like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh laid an egg at home, let up 45 points, lost 45-42. Should have never happened. Last thing about Tom Brady, he makes plays, the greatest of all time, and whatever team, whatever situation is presented in front of him, he executes. He simply executes. That's why he's going to his 8th Super Bowl. Hats off to the Patriots. Hats off to Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. I hate you guys, but hats off to you. You guys had a hell of a season, and you're probably going to win another Super Bowl. You're going to tie the Steelers for the most Super Bowls for an organization, which will be 6. Currently have 5, all 5 with Tom Brady. And Brady's about to probably bring home his 6th Super Bowl. But I'll talk a little Super Bowl preview matchup next week. Just wanted to talk some football today. Got on some tangents about concussions, player safety, things like that. But it was fun. This is Jeff Meyer here on Spaces Laces. Hit up social media, Southbound Sports, Spaces Laces. Hit up our voicemail. Would love to have some interesting ideas, comments that we could elaborate or talk about on the show. Our voicemail is 1-412-330-1512. Hit us up at southboundsports.com, like I just said. Or hit us up on S-Bound Sports on Twitter. This is Jeff Meyer here on Spaces Laces. Had fun today. See you next week.